What is going on, all of my scapers and scapettes? Is that dumb? That's dumb. Let's start over. What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to some more old school Runescape, more Trailblazer League. Today I've got a pretty special video for you that I'm pretty excited about. We're going to talk about a lot of underground, a lot of behind the scenes stuff with the league, lots of interesting things. Jagex released a kind of like blog almost, kind of detailing some of the statistics, some of the things that have happened so far throughout the league, some things they would change, things they would do differently, and a couple of interesting stats for us. So I hope you guys are ready, because a lot of it makes me feel a little bit better about my choices. Some of it makes me feel a little bit worse. Probably gonna, for you guys, you're probably gonna be like, oh, well, obviously these were the clear choices because I don't have a small brain. Sorry, but I do. Anyway, let's get into the news post. I'm gonna be here training range in the background at my spot on Fossil Island. Nobody is welcome. Just me. Anyway, let's get into this. Alright, so the first thing we break down into here is some stats, some things that they tell us about some of the area choices. This little chart right here gives us a breakdown of the players' choices for the areas that they've chosen. So for the first area, obviously everyone had Mythalin, because that's what was automatically unlocked, same with Karamja. But now here, the third choice is where things get interesting. The big red-orange bar here. Obviously, everyone picked Kandarin. That's been the main choice for pretty much everyone because it's such a strong area, with Asgarnia in a very far behind second choice. And then down here you have Mythalin. Wait, how's that even possible? Oh, that's Mauritania, Desert, Taranwin, and the Wilderness. All pretty even comparatively to Kandarin and Asgarnia. Just two massive choices. It's hard to not pick them. And I think obviously every player went the same direction there. That's what I did. I went with Kandarin as my third choice. Although it was close, I kind of was interested in the Wilderness, intrigued, you could say. But even these small slices, like with how many players are playing this Trailblazer League, that's still quite a bit. So I mean, I wouldn't like, it's not a number to laugh at for sure. And then the fourth choice, everyone was going Asgarnia, and Mauritania was a pretty close second. Actually, it looks almost identical. So the fourth choice was a little bit more balanced in a sense, and then the players that didn't pick Kandarin this time picked it for the fourth choice. Then Taranwin actually kind of rose up a little bit, it looks like, and the Desert. The poor Desert, man. The Desert is like the worst choice. I'm sorry. I know you get Ancient Magics. That's it, right? And Blackjacking. Okay. But then the Fremennik area, same. I mean, like, it's kind of ugh. And the Wilderness, wow. Actually, I'm surprised. I actually thought more people would have gone to the Wilderness than actually is saying here. But especially for the last section, it makes me really want to do the Wilderness, to be honest with you. There's so much content that I'm intrigued in doing, because I haven't gotten my last area yet. Maybe you guys have, but I was debating between Mauritania, and that seems to be like the standard choice here. I definitely don't want the Desert, and probably not Fremenniks. I mean, you have like Dagonoth Kings, sure. You have a couple other things, but I think in general it's got to be either Mauritania or maybe Wilderness. But anyway, there's the areas that they've broken down. And then here's a little bit of a different chart to kind of just see the choices by percentage of players. So Kandarin has been picked by 150,000 players. Then Asgarnia only at 90,000, Mauritania at 70, Taranwin at 15. Look at this. The Wilderness is actually the second to last choice. I'm actually very surprised. I figured it'd be above Fremennik. Fremennik and the Desert seem to be like the least desirable to me. Taranwin is up there for Prif and obviously like Zulrah, but man, okay, that's interesting. The current most popular 5 area paths. So Mythalin to Karamja, because those are the two choices everybody has. Then the Kandarin. Oh, actually Mauritania, then Asgarnia. See, I did Asgarnia and was planning on doing Mauritania. But apparently that's like the reverse path. So interesting to say the least. Alright, so next up we have something that's probably a little bit more interesting for you. These are the relic choices that people have picked. So this is kind of interesting to me. I like this. So the first relic, obviously you had Endless Harvest, Production Master, and Skilling Prodigy. Pretty evenly chosen, except for Production Master is a little bit less than the other two. But the two main relics seem to be pretty evenly tied for the first choice, which is nice to see, because in the in the previous league, the Infinite Run Energy was the clear choice. So if you didn't pick that one, you were way behind in the meta, which is why they gave it to you for free in this league. But that's interesting to see. I like that they, and I think even Jagex commented on this, how they they liked seeing how the first relic was actually pretty evenly decided upon. I think think Skilling Prodigy turned out to be the meta there, which I didn't know. I figured Endless Harvest for the not that I was trying to do what everybody else was doing, but I thought Endless Harvest would be the best for like AFKing, and it is. Don't get me wrong, but Skilling Prodigy, the plus 12 skill boost to get started on in-game content earlier does make more sense when you think about it and actually have a big brain. But I don't have a big brain, as discussed previously. Now the second relic, that's where it starts to get a little bit more, obvious. So clearly people went with Last Recall. The big old pink stick is very big, very, very big. Fairy's Flight, embarrassingly enough, well, maybe not so embarrassingly enough, but like admittedly enough, rather, I almost picked this. I had a tough conundrum. I had an internal struggle between Fairy's Flight and Last Recall here, because I thought, man, the ability to teleport between fairy rings, how can you not like that? Teleport me straight to a fairy ring? Dope. I can get right there and then get somewhere else, but Last Recall is just too strong of a relic. There's a range level. Gimme, 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 gimme. It's just too strong. And then the internal jeweler one, while that is cool, my thought process was, I can just make all the jewelry. Yeah, they won't last forever, but it's something I can still do in the game. Last Recall, that's not something you can just do in the game. You can't just teleport back to your previous location no matter what. The third relic, again, pretty clearly chosen here, Fluid Strikes, which is also what I picked. But the other two, like even Jagex has come out to say that the other two relics have a lot of potential bonuses. People just aren't necessarily being adventurous enough, I suppose, and they're choosing the clear. I think they also said that Fluid Strikes is a little OP, considering the damage reduction. They didn't really take into consideration just how strong that relic would be, although, you know, I mean, the magic one, like the Saving Runes one, would help me out a lot, honestly, because the biggest challenge I faced in the league has been money, and I mean, the ability to save like half your runes, that would help me out a ton. So that's just something to think about, I suppose. But Fluid Strikes, very clearly, and then like if you went with like a blowpipe and then you chose the ranged relic, man, you would be unstoppable. I won't talk about it much longer since we spent a lot of time on it, but I do quickly just want to run down the last couple of relics, especially the fourth relic. There's only 2 relics in this choice, and somehow people actually went with some amount of people actually went with Treasure Seeker. I don't know why, but Unnatural Selection is the clear choice there. I haven't gotten the 5th or 6th relic, but it looks like for the 5th relic that Botanist is the supreme choice. I don't even actually remember what the 3 relics do right off the top of my head, but the same with the 6th relic. It looks like Draining Strikes is the clear choice over the other 2. I don't even know what Exploding Attacks even means, but it sounds awesome, but apparently it's not. So there's that. So next up, the couple of next things I want to talk about are a couple of little fun statistics that I think are interesting. For example, the peak concurrent players hit 55.9 thousand. I think that's, Jagex said they had a record hold amount of players playing on that certain Sunday when the league launched, which is crazy. 17.6 million hours. That's a lot of freaking hours, dude. I wish I had more time to play this league. I've really kind of fallen behind on this league because just life. I mean, I have no excuse other than the fact I just haven't had a lot of time to play, which sucks. I wish I could, because I'm having such a fun time with this league. In the first hour of the league, players shopped almost 400,000 logs, killed 7.6 million poor defenseless tree spirits, and a total of 40 million tasks have been completed. That's crazy. I love to see so many people playing this league, because it just gives me hope for RuneScape's future, you know. It makes me hopeful that the game is going to still be around for a long time, and people are going to still be having fun playing it. Man, I'm looking at some of these boss statistics. The Nightmare's been killed 100,000 times. I don't even know how to get to the Nightmare. I know it's in Mauritania. The Theater of Blood's been completed 41,000 times. 2.2 million Barrows chests have been completed. And then a ton of God Wars dungeon kills. Just insane to see how dedicated the players are and how much better they are at this game than me, man. Oh, I actually just saw this. This is pretty interesting. It looks like they were debating on giving us an option to restart, or like, you know, kind of do like a stat reset, like in a Dark Souls game or something, you know. And they would allow you to change if you pick, like, say you picked a bunch of bad relics, or you didn't like the path your player progression was going. They would allow you to essentially like respec, which would be kind of cool, but it would apparently cause too many problems for the main game, which makes sense considering, like, you know, your points go straight to the main game, or your main character profile. So if you restarted, how would they determine the difference between what points were what for which game and everything? So I guess that makes sense. That would be cool. They also talk about a little bit why the second inventory relic was scrapped, which if you don't know, or if you aren't familiar, the fourth relic, where there's only the two choices between a natural selection and treasure seeker, there was a third relic called second inventory, which essentially acted like a looting bag, but there was just too many points in the game where having a second inventory would just mess up way too much and make things way too complicated, so they had to unfortunately just scrap it. But it would have been dope, and it would have probably been the clear definitive choice. So the last couple of things I want to talk about are a few oversights on Jagex's part that I kind of just thought were interesting, to say the least. Obviously, they couldn't think of everything when designing this league, and they talk about that multiple times. There are just so many different possibilities and different outcomes of things that there was no way they could have covered everything. But for example, a lot of people have been wondering why Production Master doesn't work with everything. If you don't know, Production Master, essentially, if you do an action like, say, you're smelting an inventory of items, instead of smelting everything one by one, it'll smelt or smith the whole inventory at once. Now, it didn't work for everything, and obviously people were upset. The biggest example being molten glass, like for when you're blowing glass into glass orbs or anything like that, or smith, or you know what I'm trying to say, blow the glass into it, it wouldn't work. So people were just like, why doesn't this do anything? And they're like, well, you know what, we just forgot. Also with the Eternal Jeweler, not making an infinite burning amulet, same thing. Mon Husky straight up just says it's an oversight. We went through all the jewelry we thought would be affected and missed an important one for players who picked the Wilderness, which, to be fair, not a lot of people picked, but I'm leaning more and more towards it because, not just because, obviously I'm not going to be able to play this league perfectly like I was planning on anyway, because I've just fallen so far behind. I'm kind of thinking, why not go out of the way and just be spontaneous with my last area, you know? Picking Mauritania at this point isn't going to make much of a difference than if I did choose the Wilderness. I might as well have a little bit of fun, you know? But I digress. Another example is Draining Strikes activating on a single target component with Jagex, and it's just, you know, he thought that Draining Strikes should primarily only work on single targets, and it was never plugged into the ancient multi-target spells. So, just another thing. In hindsight, would you design Relics differently completely? And overall, they're pretty happy with how they turned out, especially with the decision to split them into different categories, like having essentially like combat section of Relics, a teleportation section of Relics, and so on and so forth. Oh, and I just was talking about this, how they don't particularly like how Fairy's Flight and Eternal Jeweler doesn't allow you to do anything you couldn't otherwise do without Relics. That's exactly what I was saying, because Last Recall allows you to essentially do something completely new and really break the game. Being able to teleport to Fairy Rings is cool, but you can still use Fairy Rings even without the perk, just not so conveniently. Same with the Eternal Jeweler. Treasure Seeker in itself is just bad, and I think that's the thing they regret the most, is just how poor Clue Scrolls turned out in this league, because Clue Scrolls are such a fun part of the game, especially in Twisted League even. They were so much fun. I loved doing Clue Scrolls in Twisted League, and they really, really just made it to where they were not even doable in this league, so that's unfortunate, but lots of things that they're talking about, and if you guys want, I suggest going to read this blog post and look at all the stats, because it is really interesting, just all of the things that they kind of talk about that they were, you know, in the works and doing, and just how long they've been developing this, because a lot of the things, for example, the areas here, the why deciding on 5 area, they were originally deciding between 9 to 11 areas, depending on whether or not they would like include Corrin and Kibos, which I'm so glad they did. I'm so glad they did, because I'm so tired of Corrin, especially after the Twisted League. They wanted to only, they finally broke it down to 6 to 9, but eventually decided on the 5-9 split they have going on now. Many of us were begging for just one more area to make the choice easier, but that's what they were going for, obviously, even though it is extremely hard. That's just why, I mean, obviously that was the whole point they were going for, was they wanted the choice to be that difficult. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. We created the task design back in June/July. That's also why, like, the Slayer list is kind of A little wonky because they did that a few months ago. They forgot that the Bloodveld, for example, in Kandarin was a task, because that's literally impossible. Just a lot of things they've changed in the league, and a lot of these changes have been received positively. Some have not been so positive. There's been a lot that they've had to kind of hotfix, which I'm not necessarily a fan of. You know, they've said this quite a few times. Once they started the league, why fix certain things? Why not fix others? Essentially, it comes down to if it's a no-brainer to like fix it, or if it's like breaking the game, making it clearly do something it wasn't supposed to be, like a fundamental problem with core content, then they're going to change it. Adding Slayer monsters to regions of the Slayer list wouldn't change the power level of the region, even though Kandarin is already such a powerhouse of a region, which they go into talking about here, how they think Kandarin probably could have been split into 2 areas because it's really big, and you know, maybe separating Ardoon or something, or maybe Gnomes as part of the Turanwin, and everything else is Kandarin. It is really strong, and they talk about how the desert suffered particularly, which I have talked about tons. I think the desert is the weakest choice, but it's kind of giving them hope for maybe future desert content. Maybe that's where they will focus their next update, is purely in the desert, which could be interesting. I do think the desert is lacking content for sure. So the last thing I want to end on here is something I just saw particularly interesting. Have you considered extending the duration of this league? We currently have no plans to extend it longer than its 10-week runtime. Now, that seems insignificant because they already shut it down, that they're not extending it, but the fact that it's even, like, considered, I wonder if they would. I don't know why they would, but maybe. It'd be cool. I would love to have a little bit of extra time, but I can see, obviously, they have plans for other things as well, but maybe because they've, you know, changed things, they're like, well, we could give the players some more time since we've changed the game itself. Could be interesting. Could be dope. Could be not. Have you considered adding leagues as a permanent mode, similar to like the Dead Man world, just a permanent leagues mode? And they think that it's something that they've heard a lot about, and could be, you know, because of the extreme high replayability. However, they're also afraid of it getting old fast, essentially using the metaphor of what if Christmas was every day, you know? If you had the Trailblazer League at your fingertips every single day, you could log on, have these awesome XP rates, you'd get bored of it probably pretty quickly. That's just my guess too, though. I could see it. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about any of the stuff we've talked about? There's been lots of stuff, I know. I might link this blog post down in the description for you guys to check out. What was I saying? I don't know, I blacked out. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a like if you want. Hopefully I'll have a Trailblazer progress video coming out tomorrow. I've been super busy this past week, guys, and I apologize. Life has just been freaking crazy. Hopefully it'll slow down eventually. Holidays are coming up soon. Make sure you see your family, but be safe. I'll see you guys in the next episode, hopefully tomorrow, with the progress video for the Trailblazer League. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. But until then, boys and girls, bye!